Today, we're going to explore the mysterious vanishing of Amy Bradley. I'm going to talk about Amy's disappearance and all of the shocking details around that. I'm going to talk about how the twists keep turning and the bizarre details that surrounded this case. And I want to also offer my psychological take on Amy Bradley, the disappearance, and this whole case. I'm a licensed professional counselor, and I talk about crime psychology. Now, let's explore this mysterious vanishing of Amy Bradley. It was March of 1998. Amy and her parents and brother decided to go on a cruise of Rhapsody of the Seas. It's a beautiful cruise line. Lots to do there, lots of people, and a beautiful day. It's a beautiful vacation that they had all planned. Amy was a recent graduate. She went to Virginia and she was a basketball player. She was a skilled lifeguard. In this case, she just disappeared. Nobody knows what happened, but everybody has an opinion, and you might have your own opinion. Her family described her as outgoing. She was energetic. She was kind to everybody, yet she was also cautious. She was always aware of her surroundings. She had big plans. Her future was bright. She was going to do all these things when she got back from vacation. She got a new job. She recently adopted a bulldog. She just had so much going for her in her future. And yet, on this cruise line, she disappears. The ship was sailing, as you can imagine, beautiful seas. The area was gorgeous. The waters were the Caribbean. This was Aruba in that area. So it's very tropical, very beautiful, just like you would imagine going on a cruise line. It was literally a floating paradise. Everyone loved it. It had endless buffets and live music and the Caribbean waters. I mean, what would you want more for a tropical vacation? If you have been on a cruise, you know what it's like. Just beautifulness and so much relaxing. That's what Amy and her family wanted to do. But we know that relaxing was the last thing that they had coming. Just a short while, Amy disappeared. We now know that Amy spent a lot of time in the evening dancing, and there was a guy there, part of the band, Alistair Douglas, known as Yellow. And this is an interesting piece of this puzzle. We have reports that Amy returned to her family's cabin at around 3:40 a.m. This was confirmed by the ship's door lock system. That's how we can keep track of these timestamps. Her brother Brad, he spoke with her briefly before going to bed. We have Amy dancing at a disco. She met this guy nicknamed Yellow. She talks to her brother right before she goes to bed, or before he goes to bed, and it's 3:40 in the morning. Amy enters her room, and then at 5:30 a.m., Ron saw Amy resting on their cabin's balcony. So Ron is Amy's dad, and her sandals were neatly placed beside her, and cigarettes and a lighter nearby. Amy's dad really provided some pretty particular details here. The sandals, the cigarettes, the lighter, and she's resting cabin's balcony at 5:30. So she goes in at 3:40 a.m. Her dad sees her at 5:30 a.m. And then by 6 o'clock, 30 minutes later, when he checked again, she's gone. She's not there. And then almost immediately, the family alerted the crew, and the response was sluggish. The ship wasn't on lockdown. Passengers were allowed to disembark. Initial theory suggested that Amy fell overboard, maybe by accident. Maybe she was tired. Maybe she had too much to drink and she fell overboard. Or she jumped voluntarily. But there was no trace of Amy. She left everything else behind. There was no struggle. It didn't seem like that there was any foul play going on. Amy just vanished. And then later on, the FBI joined the case due to international waters. What actually happened, do you think, to Amy in those 30 minutes from 5:30 in the morning to 6? Her dad saw her, he leaves, and then comes back a half an hour later. She's gone, poof. Early on, investigators leaned toward an accident. It was an accident that maybe Amy fell overboard. maybe she bumped her head, or the other alternative, maybe she did it on purpose. Here's what's really interesting. I mentioned this before, that Amy was a lifeguard. She knew how to swim. She had a bright future. She had her dog. That's one of the most telling here. She just adopted a dog. She just got a new job, and she was really looking forward to a new life. So I think that rules out suicide. And accident, we don't know. It could have been an accident. Maybe Amy wanted to sit up on the rail and she fell over. We don't know. It gets more and more interesting here. So by August of 98, there was a Canadian tourist, and he spotted a woman on the beach with the same type of tattoos that Amy had on her shoulder, which was a Tasmanian devil on her shoulder. Here we have an eyewitness saying that he spotted Amy on the beach. And what's really interesting, this woman was flanked by two men who seemed to control her movements on the beach. And one of them, get this, resembled Alistair Douglas, Mr. Yellow. And then in January of 1999, a U.S. Navy petty officer visited a brothel and met a woman who said, "I am Amy Bradley. Please help me." Whoa. Really interesting, but it gets more bizarre. Later on, photos of a woman resembling Amy under the alias of Jazz appeared on an adult website in early 2000s. And it keeps going. The family received cryptic tips about Amy being held in a guarded compounds, but investigators found no trace of that. Hope came with heartbreak. And then it gets worse. In desperation, Amy's parents hire an investigator, Frank Jones. He was posing as a former Navy SEAL. He contacted the Bradleys, claiming his team had seen Amy in a guarded compound. He even sent fake photos and reports, convincing the family to send over $200,000 to fund a supposed rescue mission that never happened. Later on, Jones was convicted of mail fraud and scamming the Bradleys and the missing persons charity. This cruel deception deepened the family's pain, yet they never stopped searching. But the bizarre details, they keep going. In 2005, there was someone that encountered a woman in a Barbados department store bathroom who claimed that she was Amy, begged for help, and was interrupted by a man who took her away. So all these sightings fueled a very, very dark theory, which was human trafficking. The FBI investigated whether Amy was abducted from the ship or sold into the Caribbean traffic ring. To this day, her fate remains unknown. Is she dead? Is she alive? Is she in captivity? Where is Amy Bradley? The Bradley family reported that the crew delayed a full search and refused to lock down the ship, allowing passengers to come and go. When Amy and her family went on board the cruise, there was a professional photographer that took their pictures. And when the family went back in to look for those photos of Amy, they were gone. Was someone covering their tracks? We don't know. Now I want to provide my psychological and mental health analysis of this case. There are so many speculations and so many opinions. You might have your own opinion about this. As a licensed professional counselor, I see this case through a mental health lens here, and deception screams very, very loud. If Amy was trafficked, like a lot of people believe, the perpetrators likely displayed psychopathic traits. Amy's outgoing yet cautious nature suggests she wouldn't have followed a stranger willingly. Now, these are my speculations, not a diagnosis, not an interpretation here. I'm just speculating. I'm trying to look at the pieces of this puzzle. The Frank Jones scam reveals another layer of the psychological manipulation here, exploiting the family's hope and desperation. Amy's parents were hopeful time and time again. They were researching and trying to investigate what happened to Amy. Reported sightings really fueled their mental health or hope, and then let down. The Bradleys' ongoing search reflects an ambiguous loss. There's no closure, leaving them trapped in a cycle of hope and grief. There's a lot of mistrust and deception in this case, and it continues to go unresolved. What do you think about this case? What theory have you heard that might contribute to this? Thank you for watching. And until next time, stay curious, stay safe.